This video is sponsored by Hegears. When we think of Space Marines, we think of the ultimate in demi-human warriors. These absolute monolithic powerhouses that can defeat all foes across the galaxy. But of course, there's something even bigger than Space Marines. It's their Primarch fathers. The Primarchs made each of the chapters exactly what they are in terms of flavor, and that's what draws us so much to all these chapters. And so that's what I'm gonna do today. I'm gonna make a couple of Primarchs. And whether you're a loyalist or a heretic, we all have a Primarch leading each of our chapters / legions. And in fact, very specifically, we all have a Primarch statue in the Hall of Heroes on Terra. Now this is a very cool place. This is a shrine basically dedicated to all of the heroes, the sons of the Emperor. So we have these giant monolithic statues dedicated to each of the Primarchs. And when the heresy happened, all of the turncoat legions had their Primarchs shrouded, both in material and shame, as the Emperor no longer wished to look upon those sons. And I have a few thoughts about that, but first, I think I need to pick a few Primarchs. For the purposes of this video, I have chosen the legally distinct Little Lion Man and a rubber ghillie suit as the Primarchs of my choice. And then I'm going to be mounting these Primarchs on top of monolithic plinths as befits their statuesque nature and grandeur. So I can make this Halls of Hero diorama, but also have them featured as really cool battlefield terrain. You know, the statues that you have in the middle of a plaza that is fought over, the blood rising as it comes up to the feet of this statue. That sort of absolute nonsense. That's what we're here in 40k for, and that is what I'm gonna do. But the Games Workshop models aren't exactly big enough for this sort of thing, and that's why I'm going with a bit more of an alternative approach. 3D printing, which means I need to go set up some 3D prints. So I found two files, but I want their bases to be uniform, and I want them on big plinths, because they're gonna be statues. So I'm gonna find plinths and print them separately and mount the Primarchs on them later. Our sponsor, Hegears, has sent us their new pulsing release module, which is supposed to reduce the peeling force in 3D printing by 50%. So we're gonna put that to the test. I'm gonna print these plinths using the old method, and then I'll install the module and print all the Primarchs using the new technology. And then we can take a look and compare the differences between the two techniques later in the video. And now that the plinths are done, it's time to print the first Primarch, our little lion ant. But first, I need to install Hegears' new pulsing release module and see exactly what the deal is with that. The first thing I need to do is set up our printer for the new module. And the first thing that requires is taking off the old tape around the protective screen. A cutout in the top of the tape allowed for the adapter to slot into the bottom of the printer. This is what's going to allow the air to cycle through underneath the FEP. That should help to alleviate all that peeling force. And with that set up, it's time to simply plug in the new FEP. So now I'll just stick back in the resin measuring device, and I can start setting up the actual pulse release module itself. Again, this was pretty straightforward. Simply open up the back, take out the plug, that's important, and then just simply plug in the tubes. And that was it. Honestly, it was a bit deceptive with how easy it was to set up, so I guess to test it, I'm just gonna have to start printing something. All right, I've just come in and I haven't had a proper look at this print yet, so So just having a quick look at this up close, we have really, really nice layer thicknesses, like to the point like I almost can't see it. Kind of impressive. This is looking really cool. So I'm gonna stop waffling and I'm actually gonna take these off and start cleaning them. Let's go. I've got all my parts. Let's take a look. Ooh, look at the shield. Now this is apparently one of the things that the pulsing release module is good at. It removes most of those little dimples. Oh my, wow, it actually did. I don't know what I was expecting, not what was written on the tin. Like I can see 4 divots there instead of 30. All right, I like this. I like, ooh, hang on. Cloak. You'd expect to see the model lines. You can see lines, but I think that's texture on the model because that isn't present on any of the, leg pieces. So that's actually part of the model. That's quite good. I'm impressed. But I think that's enough talking about loyalists, and I'm going to touch on a bit of the heretic nonsense here, because of course, the Emperor decreed that all the heretic Primarchs have giant shrouds thrown across their statues. But why didn't the Emperor just have them destroyed? They betrayed everything that the Imperium and the Emperor stood for, because there are 2 giant sconces in that hall that are completely empty. The Primarchs of the mysterious 2nd and 11th Legions. They're gone. There is nothing there. They are just empty wells of space within this hall. So I guess the question is, what the hell did these 2 Primarchs do that was so bad? I mean, Horus's statue is still in the hall. It's got a bloody tarp over it. Like, what did they do? Something has clearly gone down. Like, for the uninitiated, those 2 Primarchs were the self-insert if you wanted to do the your own legion instead of one of the named ones. But within the lore, it's just a meme. You know, what did they do? Where did they come from?
Where did you go? Where did you come from, Cotton Eye Joe?
Who knows? We'll never know now. That's just part of the fun now. But we still ended up with 9 heretical Primarchs covered with enough fabric to clothe half of Terra. And really that got me to wondering, should I do some traitor Primarchs as well? That would be really cool. I'd love to have some statues that are just draped in mystery, literally. But then I started thinking, how would I make it? I could maybe use Blender, the physics mechanics, to actually put a tarp digitally over these models, but that I would have to assemble these models because they're in pieces digitally. Other alternative would be to print them, build them, and then layer green stuff or milliput or something. That would be a lot of green stuff, but I could do it. And that would be kind of cool. I'd have a lot more control, I think. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you think. I'm not going to do that in this video. That I think merits its own video. In fact, if you want me to complete the entire Hall of Heroes, complete with 2 empty sconces, let me know. Maybe this can turn into a full thing. At this moment, it's sort of a fun idea. But for now, I'm gonna stay with these 2 Primarchs and see what I can do with them. Now, I've already looked individually at all the pieces of the Primarch, but I haven't compared it to the old print yet. The quote-unquote old resin, the standard resin. It's good, like it's good quality, it's perfectly fine. But you can see, you know, where the supports have contacted, you know, that needs filing and sanding down. You can see the grain, fairly minor, but you can see it. You know, you can tell when you look at the 3D print. Whereas we look at the Lion, now there's 2 factors here. There's the pulsing release module, but also the PAP 10 miniatures resin, the very special resin that comes with this. And together, this has just produced something kind of outrageous. Initially, I thought I could see the layer lines through the cloak, but that's actually texture put into the cloak. Almost no layer lines to be seen. If you hold it up to the light, you can find them, but they're so minute. It's actually really impressive. This might actually be the best quality 3D print I've ever seen. I cannot think of anything I've seen, even on YouTube on other channels.
You can cast from that quality.
No, this is actually beautiful. If you're wondering about the 3D printer I'm using, this is the sponsor of this video, the Haygears Ultracraft Reflex with its new add-on, the Pulsing Release Module, which combined gives an unparalleled level of detail and quality on your miniatures. Perfect for any small business or those looking for a top-tier 3D printer. The Pulsing Release Module itself is responsible for this leap in quality, lowering the peeling force by 50%, reducing support density, less required cleanup and blemishes on the printed surface, and a prolonged lifespan of the FEP by double. So if this interests you, we even have a discount of $100 for any purchase of the Reflex or Reflex combo using the code TTT, which also nets you a free bottle of the PAP 10 miniatures resin. And now, back to the video. I've finished the little Lion Man and it looks incredible. So in the meantime, I'm gonna go put on Gorilla Man print. All right, we have another Primarch printed, the upright kitchen Gorilla Man himself. Amazing. There are no print lines to be seen almost. Wild. This sword here, I said before that the Lion sword, with the auto-generating supports, it only put it down here, and then the sword itself was completely unsupported. I was a bit, I don't know, maybe I'll just put in some. But it turns out it didn't need it at all. I did nothing with this one. It was supported from the hilt to here. This just printed perfectly. One thing that's worth pointing out while I'm looking at these is that I actually have not cleaned up any of these parts whatsoever. I haven't scraped away any of the divots or anything. This is absolutely straight off the supports. I mean, you're watching me peel it off the supports. I've done nothing to this. This is just how little residue is left after all these supports are removed, which is kind of amazing to think about because a couple of years ago you would have spent quite a while cleaning up all the little imperfections and residue left by 3D printing. But now it's basically just peel the damn thing off and it's ready to go. Like, I could dry brush half these model pieces and I don't think I'd pick up any layer lines. I don't know, maybe I'm getting a little bit too excited over new technology, but I personally really like seeing these sorts of things and that gets me excited. But I'm getting ahead of myself because I want to talk about one last thing. Possibly the most important thing here is that comparing these 3D prints that I've pulled off the internet for free, basically, and comparing it to what you can get from Forge World, the actual Primarchs. It raised a big point because a lot of the prints these days are done digitally. A lot of the Primarchs themselves are hand sculpted, I believe, at least the old ones. I'm not sure about the new ones. Someone might be able to correct me or give me a bit of information on that. A lot of the Heresy characters are now done entirely digitally, and what they do is a 3D print, a very fine 3D print like I'm doing here. So then they take this 3D print and use that as the master mold for their entire production line. And notably, one of the legs of the Exodus character for the Alpha Legion. This is an absolutely beautiful model, and I don't know if it's by accident, but clearly shows some print layers. It stands out quite a lot. So really, what you're getting from Forge World is technically 3D printed plus a step, which they do their best to like smooth it out and whatever. But what I have printed by myself is effectively the same as what you are buying at a premium online. And that's a bit of an oddity and maybe worth some discussion, as I personally don't mind someone going to the effort of digitally sculpting something, printing it, cleaning up to make it look good, and then casting it, but that's a lot of steps and you're going to charge quite a lot of money because Forge World is not cheap. And I can basically do the same with what I have here, apart from the very obvious hill of having to actually purchase the 3D printer. Once you've done that, you can sort of create your own production line. And then on the other hand, we have the plastic Primarchs, which we're getting for 40k, and they are also gorgeous. There's effectively no flaws with those, of course no print lines. They're all plastic injection molds, but again, you've got the price, and here I can choose what scale I want. I can have monolithic statues, as I've proven right here, or I can shrink them down to tabletop size and just use that. Whereas with Games Workshop, you get what you get, which is good quality, but you can't do a lot with that. You're going to have to kit bash it anyway. But I don't know, maybe this is a whole lot of shower thoughts, but really the question is, are we really paying extra for something that is better than what we can just access at home now? Anyway, I think it's time for a bit of painting therapy. So let's get started on that. Now it's time to Primarch. Actually, I don't think I've actually said I'm actually just painting the Lion and Gilliman. I've had too much fun with the silly names. Now, when it comes to painting something like marble, to keep things simple, I'm going to go for a fairly traditional marble. And that's going to be that white grey marble that you see in very expensive homes. So of course, I'm going to use a fairly bright base coat to get the model to about the color that I want to start with. That makes things a lot more efficient. I'm going to recommend dry brushing to get that nice stone feel. You want to give the impression that this is stone, not have a finished product, because layering is the entire secret to the marbling effect. By layering, I mean glazes. As if you look at the difference between just a rock face and marble, you can see that marbling has this very specific layered effect. You feel like you can see down into the rock to where all these layers and veins are. And that's what we want to try and emulate, that sort of depth. So my first step here is going to be creating a lot of these veins. And I'm going to start off very subtle, watering down a fairly dark blue-gray until it's almost the consistency of a wash itself. This might take a couple of goes and you might make some mistakes, but they'll disappear under everything else. And now that that's done, we get to do the first stage of glazing. This is where all the magic is going to come into effect. Now for this color, I'm going to use the exact color that I used for the dry brushing. A lighter color than the rest of the model, and I'm going to apply this over the entire model, making sure I don't put too much down and it acts as a wash, because I don't want this pooling into any of the recesses. I'm going to recommend doing at least 3 glazes, as we want a really nice foggy appearance, as this is what gives that illusion of depth, but also the glossiness of the marble itself. And now I've ended up with a fairly pristine marble, which looks absolutely perfect within the venerated Shrine of Terror. But if you want something a bit more worn down, you can always add some moss, or even little streaks of green or white to simulate bird droppings. But without further ado, I think it's time to have a look at what these look like within the Hall of Heroes. Cut to reveals. A huge thank you to our patrons. It is your continued support that allow us to produce the content that we do. If you're interested in also supporting the channel and what we do, the links are in the description, which also gets you access to our exclusive Patreon Discord server, where you can actively talk with us about ongoing projects of your own, and even enter in our monthly mini review, where you can get some critique, feedback, or just opinions upon what you're working on. It's a great time of the month, and we always look forward to it. So again, the links are in the description below. And we brought my little foray into Primarchs in statue form to a close. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it, or at least were entertained by exactly where the technology is heading in our hobby. It's always a fun moment to see exactly where we are in the scale of things, and just to see what is being done. However, the end result was 2 awesome Primarchs in statue form to be put as displays, maybe as bookends, or to be put on the battlefield for all your forces to fight over. And I've already mentioned that if you are interested in seeing perhaps the entire lineup, or just some of the heretical Primarchs shrouded in cloth never to be seen again, let us know in the comments. It means a lot and can really influence what we do next. So once again, thank you for watching, and a huge thank you to our sponsor, HeyGears, for both sponsoring the video and sending us their new pulsing release module. So check out the link in the description to see what they have in store. So until then, see you later.